Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Our guests waiting to be profiled are actor-director Ted Lange and author Arthur Frank Wertheim. Theodore William Lange was born and raised in Northern California. His mother, Jerry, had a TV show on public broadcasting station in San Francisco. Ted's a graduate of RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London, and has been working non-stop, garnering awards from the AFI, the NAACP. He's authored, directed, and produced for the stage. He's been on the big screen. But Ted, we all love you from 10 seasons of The Love Boat.
Thank you so much.
Isaac the bartender.
Yes, he was a wonderful guy.
Did you like him?
I loved him. He was very good to me.
Was it good or bad? Does it haunt you when you go out, or do you carry it?
It's people know. I mean, people know that character. And but I'm not opposed to that, because I mean that character was a lovable guy, and when people see me, they smile. It's not like playing a villain, and you play a villain and they go, "Oh man, you were terrible, mean, or blah blah blah. Are you really like that?" No, when people see me, it's a warm feeling. So I don't have a problem with it.
Years ago, when I was working for Interview magazine, Andy Warhol came on to be a guest, because I guess you had guests on your cruise, your Love Boat cruise.
Sure.
And the first thing, because we went out to dinner afterwards, oh, that Isaac, he's such a nice guy.
Oh wow, that's great.
He didn't do your portrait though, did he?
No, but he gave me one of the Indian things.
Oh, did he?
And he signed it to us. Yes.
See, wasn't that great? Oh yeah, he did a series of cowboys and Indians.
Yeah, and so I got one of the Indian. It was signed by Andy Warhol.
Remember that?
Yeah, come on, that's really great stuff.
Did you study singing and dancing when you were at RADA, or afterwards?
Yeah, mainly it was acting and Shakespeare, but we did movement class and we did voice class. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
it was pretty formal training there?
Very formal, and you broke down verse, iambic pentameter, and how to approach it, and what the things meant in certain speeches, and you talked intellectually about what Hamlet was doing, what Othello was doing, and then an approach to you doing the text.
But that's an actor's dream, isn't it? They say you love Shakespeare, then you can do anything on the stage. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe it, absolutely.
Because of the way you break it down? I never understood that before.
Well, and not only that, I mean, it gives you control of the language, so that when you do contemporary language, it's that much easier. And also, when you're doing things in a contemporary vein, sometimes you have to insinuate things in Shakespeare. When you have something that might be a little fluffy, you can play against it. There are little techniques that you learn from doing Shakespeare that will apply to contemporary stuff. Yeah.
Well, how did you get to London from Northern California?
Wow, that was a long...
Was it a long trip?
Oh, yeah, that's a long trip. I mean, I had done theater. I started out in theater.
Oh, I see.
I was Romeo. I did Romeo and Juliet at 18 years old.
Oh, so you were always, was it because of your mom?
No, actually, my mom didn't get involved until later, until I made my announcement that I was going to be an actor. And then certain things happened in my mom's life that pushed her into show business.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
the other way around.
Yeah, and then actually I followed my father, because when I was a kid I used to come here to Los Angeles and I would watch my father in plays.
What was he doing?
He was an actor. He was an actor at a theater called the Ebony Showcase.
Oh,
this is in the 1950s.
That was a wonderful place.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I used to go, my brother and I we used to go and see my father do plays, and for his main job, he was a plasterer. So he would plaster in the daytime and then do theater at night. And so one day he said he wanted to pass on the business to us. But plastering is hard work. So I said, No, Dad, I'm going to stick with that other thing you do. I'm going to be an actor. I'm not
The
gonna
creative part.
Yeah.
He must have been a creative plasterer. He must have done great work.
Yeah, yeah.
But you were singing and dancing. Were you taking
yes.
classes?
Oh, yeah. I always took, when I decided what I wanted to do, I took ballet classes, I
you
took
did.
singing lessons.
All in L.A.?
No, in San Francisco,
Oh, you
Oakland,
did?
and Berkeley, in the area there. And then when I came down here, yes, I continued to take classes. I used to take class at East West Players,
Oh, yeah.
which is the Asian theater company. And Kathleen Freeman, I don't know if you remember who Kathleen Freeman, which is a wonderful character actress. But I took acting classes from her and another guy named Rick Edelstein out of East West Players.
Oh,
so I've always, always studied.
Well, we had ballet classes from Tatiana Ryabushinska, so that was cool too.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
that
better
was
than
great.
cool, yeah.
That was very good. And then that's how you got to RADA?
No, then I did.
Oh, you were still working,
I was working.
Oh, I see.
And actually how I got to RADA was they had a special program, and I was doing Love Boat at the time.
Really?
Yeah, and I needed a letter of recommendation. And I had just directed Lynn Redgrave on Love Boat. So I called her, I said, Lynn, I want to get into RADA, but I need a letter of recommendation. Would you recommend me? Because they had a special programs for Americans.
I see.
For, well, actually, other English-speaking cultures. So it was American, Australians, East Indians.
Wow.
And they did it through the summertime. It was all done through the summertime. And so I got a letter of recommendation from Lynn Redgrave.
Can't be better than that.
How can you get better than that? You can't get better
No,
than
so
that.
tell me then when you were on Broadway. That was like amazing to me too. When I saw you in
Barbara Dashers.
Barbara Dashers, it's very hard to say that.
Yeah,
Barbara Dashers.
Haberdasher, Barbara
Dasher. You can sing, you can dance, and then I read your bio. You were in Hair,
Yeah,
the Rado Ragney.
Yeah, Rado and Ragney, sure.
And you were on Broadway in that?
On Broadway with them, and
So you were naked?
I took, you may find this hard to believe, Joan, but I took my pants off in Hair.
Oh, I can't believe it, because that's what you do in this play.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. I was going, excuse me, Ted Lange is mooning me.
Yes.
I'm sitting on the side.
Yes. Well, see, I have to say to the audience, I'm wearing a thong. I'm not just dropping in pants. I'm wearing a thong.
Yeah, you're
so that
very cool.
Yeah, so you can see that it's a thong, too. But that's how I was talking to Bless, the playwright, who's also the director, and I said, I have to drop my pants in this scene here. I said, we don't want to wear boxers, because the guy thinks he's sexually all of that. He would wear a thong. And he goes, yeah, but would you? I said, yeah, if that's what the character is, that's what I'll do.
And that's the character that you really portrayed for. His name is Bless Jijaja.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's the playwright's name.
Is that his real name?
No, I don't think it is.
It's a great name, isn't it?
Yeah,
Jijaja?
yeah. If you're gonna change your name to something,
That's a good
you
one.
know, Cary Grant, Archie Leach.
No,
You know?
you change it, right?
Yeah. So this guy went to Bless Dijaja.
He's really talented.
Talented kid.
And how is it for you to say his words on stage?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. He's got a very interesting approach, and my character is such a fascinating guy, because at the drop of the hat, he goes into a whole routine.
But your guy comes out and he's singing, he's dancing.
Yeah.
You're waltzing.
Yes.
And that's when you could see that you knew how to dance, because you
thank you.
dance with a broom.
Yeah, exactly.
And you say his words, you have an arrogance about you.
Yes, you got it.
Well, but why are you so arrogant? Why are you
He's an old-timer. He's an old-timer who, this is the play, the Barbara, he
Tell us about Barbara Dashers.
Okay, Barbara Dashers is a guy, he owns the shop. Mm-hmm. His buddy who works in the shop with him is older than him, yet he's employed this guy.
Right.
So he's got a little bit of arrogance, and he's full of himself.
He's so confident. Everything he says, he's confident.
Confident that
You
this
are.
is the rule, this is the law almost, you know, I can do this.
But is it why? Just because you've worked there so long?
Well, because I think, first of all, he's a chess player. He's ranked as a chess player, so he understands, you know what I'm saying? He understands politics and the movement of things. And as in any barbershop, there is someone that is a sage. In any black barbershop that you go to, there's somebody who is the sage. And he knows that, and that's the mantle that he's taken on.
And he owns the shop. He owns it. So he's arrogant, he's confident, he's funny.
Yeah, he's funny.
He dances.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
He dances.
Yeah.
He didn't sing.
And he wants to, he sees this young kid working for him, and he wants to get through to this kid about life.
It's the old and the new, the pull.
Yeah.
And all the time, I think, repeated are those words, life experience.
Life experience, that's right.
You say it.
Yeah. And he tries to get to get his friend to do it. His friend, who is older than him, and they're buddies, but he feels that his friend he's shied away from life experience. He's always taking the easy route.
Oh, I see.
So he's saying to him, don't take the easy route. Go for it. This guy's had 3 marriages, and he's looking for the 4th.
That's you.
Yeah, me. Yeah, that's my character. So, I mean, he's a guy that life experience, and what's interesting in the play is there's a chess game between him and the young guy, and at one point the young guy almost catches him. You know?
Yeah, you got a little startled, didn't you?
Because he's overconfident.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, that's that arrogance kicking in.
But that's what we think in the audience. We don't think you're going to win.
Yeah.
We think the young is going to come. But the great thing about this young guy writing the play and talking about world experiences, life experiences, is that he sees that you really are right in a lot of ways. I mean, you have that work ethic that doesn't happen now.
Yeah, and that's I think that's what the playwright was addressing for his generation, is that there's things have evolved into another area, and he gets caught up in it with the making of money, which is not necessarily a legal way of making money.
And you bring that out. The other thing that I thought was interesting is how he's written each of his characters to be able to come on and have one showcase for themselves.
Yeah.
Was that a kind of a new way of presenting material?
Well, I think what he did is that he wanted to service the characters as a playwright, and he wanted to make sure that to make a fuller character, that rather than just supporting one person or supporting, that they each had moments in which you saw beneath the facade of who the person was, and he did that really well.
And you had this scene where you were shaving.
Yes.
And you shave, and you must have a soliloquy for, I mean, it must have been 10 minutes long. How long does it take to shave a person? What were you doing? How do you get into the right mode without? Is it a real razor?
Yeah, it's a real razor.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's a real razor. That's why first couple of rehearsals was a little touchy with the other actor, because he's going, wait a minute. But there's a certain way to shave. I had to talk to a barber on.
Did you research that?
Yeah. So you have to know what that is. So you have some sort of authenticity on how you're given the shave, because it's an old-fashioned shave.
It is. It's a straight razor.
Straight razor shave.
That only people throat slit nowadays. They don't shave with them.
Yeah, no, they don't do that anymore. But and Bless came up with a great story connected to the razor. What a wonderful story that is about the razor once belonging to General Ulysses S. Grant.
That you only see with a beard. You never see pictures of Grant without a beard, do you?
No, you never do.
That's what I thought was so good.
Yeah, it's a wonderful vehicle for a story on that razor.
That's why I thought he was so clever, and I thought he wasn't just a young playwright writing, that he'd gotten deep into what he was doing.
He makes his points. That's what's really good about it. He makes his points both to my generation and to his generation.
But you had to make the point. How did you keep it interesting, and how were you like getting that role?
Well, Bless sent me the script and asked me to read it and to find out if I was interested, and then it was a matter of when are you going to do this and that sort of thing.
But with the shaving part.
With the shaving part, I had to find a rhythm.
That's what I thought.
To the story and to where I would be at a particular point in the shaving of the story.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It was very evident. I mean, I was watching, I was going, is he going to finish on time or is he going to say his story? Do you ever play any other ethnic roles?
Oh, yeah, I did Driving Miss Daisy, toured it, the national tour. Recently I did I'm Not Rappaport.
But as somebody else other than an African-American actor?
Oh, have I done like,
Yeah.
oh, certainly, yeah. Well, Romeo and Juliet. And I did Galileo.
Oh, yeah.
I did Galileo, the Charles Lawton version that Breck had written for When Lawton Came was in Santa Monica. They did a version of it, and they rewrote it, and that's actually a stronger version than the earlier version, and that's the one I did. So yeah, I've played other parts. Taming of the Shrew I did Heaven Can Wait.
We know
boxer.
you've done so much.
Yeah. So there's, absolutely.
And we'll just keep looking for Ted Lange.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know what I'm doing Celebrity Fit Club right now.
Oh, that's...
So
I wondered about that.
So much
are
going
you
on.
like getting your abs going?
Yeah, my abs are happening here. I'm very excited.
But that's part of the way you live.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're a dancer and actor and you can drop your pants at the drop of a belt,
Well,
you can do it.
Yeah, with no compunctions at all,
No,
Joan. Just let me drop my pants.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And keep watching. We'll be right back with author Arthur Wertheim. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Author Arthur Frank Werthrim has written several books on 20th century American culture. He's also edited the work of Will Rogers and many of the papers of Will Rogers. Frank was awarded a Fulbright grant to teach at the University of Indonesia. And Frank, when you got that Fulbright grant, were you teaching American history?
Yes.
And did you teach American history there?
In Indonesia, yeah. To Indonesian students that spoke great English.
And what did you study when you were at Yale and NYU?
A combination of what's called American Studies, looking at American culture through art, literature, and history.
So you've been interested in this field all your life.
Right. I would say, yes, absolutely.
And as a child, did pop culture, is it pop culture really? Or
Yeah,
is it in a way?
Well, my first book was on New York, Greenwich Village, artists and writers, but then I moved into popular culture with a study of radio comedy and Will Rogers. My stepfather was in the show business and knew a lot of these entertainers. And he took me to the old-time radio shows.
Oh, so you went to these things, so you actually remember them as growing up.
Yeah, not the vaudeville shows, but the radio shows. But I met people like Jack Benny who were in vaudeville. So many radio stars got their start in vaudeville.
Let's talk about that, because your book, The Vaudeville Wars, How the Keith Albee and Orpheum Circuits Controlled the Big Time and Its Performers. Controlled the Big Time and Its Performers. What was vaudeville? Because some people don't know what it was.
Well, vaudeville was essentially a variety show, and at first it was called Variety, and it moved into vaudeville, and you called it because the name had a little more, what you could say, it was a fancier name, a little more prestige, and then, so vaudeville was the term pretty much used after 1890 through 1920s. And it was the most popular entertainment for Americans between those times in the 1890s and 1920s. And the apex of vaudeville, to be on the stage in vaudeville, where you'd see 7 or 8 acts, sit there and see some great acts, different types of acts. Was the big time. That's why they would call it the big time. And
You mean to go to a vaudeville show, you were going to the big time? Is that the
well,
the
you could also
idea?
go to the small time, which were in smaller towns.
Oh, I see.
And
Is that it?
But the big time, for example, take the Palace in New York. That was a Keith Theater, and that was the apex. When you played the Palace, you were really on top.
I see. So you were in the big time.
And here in Los Angeles, for example, the big time was the Orpheum circuit, and there were 4 or 5 over the years Orpheum theaters. So if you look at it, saying the Orpheum was controlled big time vaudeville west of the Mississippi, and the Keith, which later became Keith Albee circuit, east of the Mississippi, and they kind of combined eventually and made alliances, and they could pretty much control the best of vaudeville.
So they were controlling it. Why were you interested in this? You wrote about radio, you wrote about, as you said, the arts, you've written about a lot of things. Why vaudeville?
Will Rogers got me interested in vaudeville because he was 10 years in vaudeville before he became a Ziegfeld Follies star and a radio star, and so I had a lot of material left over from the research on vaudeville, and I was fascinated because he was
So he's a major part of the book, or he was
he's
a major...
in there. He's in there, and a lot of other performers who got their start in vaudeville, like Buster Keaton, for example, as a little kid with his family, George M. Cohan. Actually, Will Rogers got me started.
How long did it take to write it?
This book, about 10 years from if you include the research.
Really? It's very academic.
yeah.
There's a lot to read. I started reading last night, and it's like you really want to digest it because there's so much in it. And then how did you do the research after that? You actually worked with Will Rogers researching, but then, or the research with him. Then how'd you find the other things?
Well, you have to go to the major collections, and I went to archives from Los Angeles. I even went to England, the big theater museum. The big collection for the Orpheum is in Berkeley, University of California, and Keith Albee is in the University of Iowa. So there are major collections. There's a Performing Arts Library in New York, Performing Arts Library in San Francisco.
Is anyone still living from that period that you could have talked to? Did you talk to anyone in
No,
person?
I didn't talk to anybody because most of the people who played the big time are not with us today. A few child stars are still living. But unfortunately, a lot of them have written their memoirs,
Oh, so did you use that?
autobiographies of their experiences.
Well, let's get to your book, to the title anyway. Why were there wars? What was the war?
It's a good title because they were warring all the time. The Keith Albee people and the Orpheum people were always warring, conflict over what stars they could get on their circuit.
That was interesting. Keith Albee and the Orpheum.
Yeah.
That was East and West?
Yeah, even though they had an alliance, they would argue often about what stars they were going to control. They argued over territory. I mentioned the Palace, for example. The Orpheum was headed by Martin Beck. Beck actually bought the land and started building the Palace, and Keith and Albee at that time said, no, can't build it. You're supposed to stay west of the Mississippi. If you build the Palace and follow through, I'm going to put theaters in all the Orpheum towns.
So that would be the competition.
There's a competition between the two. Even though they had alliances, they always warred for control of their territory. And second reason it's called wars is because there was a lot of conflict with the performers who.
Oh, there was.
Yeah, they tried. Yeah, they had low salaries. They could be fired.
Then that takes me to the White Rats.
Right. That was the first union of the vaudeville performers.
The performers founded their own union, I guess, called the White Rats. 1901?
Yeah. And they struck a few theaters. They lost. Now, Rats is actually stars spelled backwards.
Oh, is that right?
Well, that's how they got it.
Oh, I wondered what that was.
And so, but the Albee and the Orpheum fought the union. They were very anti-union. And so eventually, Albee created his own union called National Vaudeville Artists, a performers union, and that pretty much destroyed the White Rats because he said, if you're a member of the White Rats, we're not going to give you a job.
Oh, so he took over himself. Did he build his own theater? They did build their own theaters, opulent theaters.
That was it. What was very different about these big-time vaudevilles, they were luxurious theaters as early as the 1890s. In San Francisco, Orpheum, in Boston, Philadelphia, New York.
Beautiful.
There were beautiful, elegant theaters. And Albee actually was the decorator of many of these theaters. He bought antiques, bought rugs, bought paintings of old masters, and for 10 cents for an average person, maybe it's set up in the balcony, to see all this beauty around him was very enhancing.
So it was really a thrill to go to a vaudeville show. It was a theater.
Yeah, and it was relatively inexpensive, and you'd sit there and see 8 different acts, from acrobats to jugglers to comedians, singers, and dancers.
You know, we have a lot of offshoots from that you mentioned in the book. William Morris.
Right. William Morris got his start as a vaudeville agent, and he came over as an immigrant boy from Europe. He got into the vaudeville business, and he fought Albee as well as the Orpheum. He did not like the control, which he called the trust of vaudeville, because he was an independent agent, and they practically drove him out of business, Keith Albee. So he formed, with the help of others, an opposition circuit, but the big time Keith Albee put him out of business. They also said to their performers, if you play for Morris, you don't have a job with us.
But Morris, that name has lasted. RKO. Okay. That's where Keith came in, right? Where he lasted.
Well, Morris was very much of a man for himself, and he said, the sign will never come down on my business, and as you know, it's still in existence, one of the still major agencies in Hollywood and New York. As far as RKO, that came at the end, and that's when Joseph F. Kennedy, the father of the president, played a crucial role in taking over Keith Albee Orpheum. Through the manipulation of stock, he got control of the stock.
I read that, yes.
And from there, he made a deal with RCA, David Sarnoff, and created Radio Keith Orpheum. So all of the old vaudeville theaters, Keith Albee Orpheum, became Radio Keith Orpheum, and they eventually turned to showing sound film.
And I never knew what RKO stood for until I read your book. And the last one before we have to leave is Variety.
Yeah.
That came out of it too.
Variety, as the word implies, started as a variety, a paper about vaudeville, strictly, in 1905 by Sime Silverman. Of course, now it has other areas, but Silverman also fought the so-called trust or combine, and he was very independent, but eventually he crossed over and became quite a friend of theirs for reasons to sell papers. So Sime Silverman is another character in this book.
It was fascinating.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Joan.
Thanks, Frank. And thank you for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles today. Keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor. See you next time.